All right.
Now we're good to go.
Well, welcome to discussion session for March 23rd, 2026. I am sitting in as Commissioner Siegler is unavailable. President Siegler is unavailable. We will start this evening with the review of agenda items by Manager McGill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Tonight we have the presentation of our Birdtown, Pennsylvania certificate. We have the consideration of a resolution amending Mount Lebanon Civil Service rules and regulations. We have appointments to municipal boards and reappointments. We have consideration to an extended ball field and naming rights agreement for Seymour Field. We have consideration of bids for the annual street sweeping program, consideration of final approval for a subdivision plan for 29 and 33 Carlton Drive. That is actually a lot consolidation. We have consideration of a contract with CB Richard Ellis Inc. for a real estate service agreement for transaction management and consulting services related to the South Garage project. You'll hear about that in a moment. We have consideration to enter into a contract for the purchase of a new fire engine. Chief Christoffel will go through that for you a little bit later in discussion. And we have consideration to purchase 2 administration vehicles.
Fantastic, thank you very much. We will go to the next item, the South Garage, Ann Rum and Mr. Dudley, CBRE. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming this evening.
Presentation up, so give me just a second. I think because I was logged in as room C at some point.
That's okay. While you're doing that, I'll provide a little bit of background if that's okay.
Great.
The commission has a memo in your packets, but in 2023, the municipality hired consultants to conduct a structural analysis on the south parking garage. Result of that report indicated that the garage has approximately 5 years remaining in its useful life, provided that we do certain maintenance during that 5-year period. So we've started to do that maintenance. You'll see more maintenance being done in 2026. So the commission then directed staff to prepare a plan for demolition and reconstruction. In 2024, the commission held an informational session with local experts related to parking garages and redevelopment. And then the municipality eventually contracted with WTW Architects / AE Works to conduct a feasibility study and architectural analysis for the site, with the goal of incorporating that into an RFP for a possible private-public partnership opportunity. So the next steps in that process will be for the municipality to issue an RFP for redevelopment of the site. The municipality is good at a lot of things, but we are not developers. So we felt that we should go to development experts in order to give us the best product to put out onto the street, as they would say, to try to attract potential developers for the site. So that's why CB Richard Ellis is here tonight, to talk to you a little bit about what they are going to offer to the municipality should we enter into a contract with them. So based on that structural analysis, I hate to say we have somewhat of a ticking clock, but we do, somewhere in the 2028, 2029 timeframe to demo the structure and have a developer or plan in place to try to move that forward. We want to try to minimize the time frame for which that garage is not available because it serves multiple users. And we want to make sure also that we are doing everything that we can to potentially capitalize on what is an important development opportunity for the municipality. This is an unusual situation in that we actually have site control, which does not happen too often. And potentially we can not only put it back for parking that needs to be replaced, but also gain in terms of a development, be that condos, be it some type of limited, I'll say retail opportunities, whatever the market will tell us will work on the site. And I will at this point turn it over to the experts to let you sort of proceed with your presentation.
Great. Thanks, Keith. Thank you for having us. So I guess, Keith, going back to that initial meeting about the garage and the useful life remaining, and we had, I think, a very productive discussion about whether that presents an opportunity for something much more substantial. It brought to my mind right away the special practice groups that reside within CBRE. So just by way of quick background and introduction, CBRE is the largest commercial real estate firm in the world. We have offices in 500 cities and 100 countries. But that scale lets us develop some specialized practice groups. Some of them get deep into things like data centers or healthcare, casinos. So we have a number of special practice groups, and they are the subject matters in their specific, distinct segment of the business. And one of those groups is the Public Institutions and Education Solutions Group, affectionately known within our company as PIES. And the Midwest Managing Director for PIES is Ann Rahm, who's with me today. She was good enough to make the trip in from Detroit. We've talked a lot about this project, talked about the market. We've done some theoretical pro formas just to see if there's fundamental viability for different types of uses on the site. And I think the big question we had in that initial meeting was, how should an RFP process be done? And what do we expect to come of it? And what's the timeline to do it? So we touched on those things in our proposal and in the contract that we have before the municipality. So with that, allow me to introduce Ann Rahm of our PIES Special Practice Group.
Thank you. Nice to see everybody. Thanks for having us. We have a presentation, but it doesn't matter. It's okay.
It'll be
It's
coming
no
up
big
in
deal.
just a
And I see that most people have it anyway, so I'm boring you by having it again. So, yeah,
Just like
so.
to have it for our vast viewing audience at home, man.
Yeah, so, but our group, we are a national practice group, and I do handle the Midwest for that, so, but we basically act as a real estate partner to our clients. So we could do the disposition of a little closed library that you might have, or we write entire strategic plans like we've done for Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio. But the work that I really enjoy the most is really this type of work, that development advisory work, because you're basically activating or reactivating typically an underutilized asset or one that's beyond its prime. So I know it's very satisfying to me. So we, as I said, we do anything from small dispositions to leasing, portfolio optimizations, things of that nature. But so I think today the most important thing we're going to talk about is really our approach and how we can go about things. You have it in front of you. I think it was on page 6. I can't see it on my glasses on. But so we really break it up into 4 phases. And the first is really, really important. And that is when we sort of get to know each other, figure out what the highest and best use is. You know, do you need workforce housing? Do you need market rate, affordable? You want high-end, condominiums? Is it senior housing? It's really big demand right now. All those things, we don't know yet, right? We don't know how much parking you need to support any future uses. So that's what we're really going to drill down to in the beginning. What type of incentives does the city have available? Does the municipality have available? What does the county have? And those are the things that we're going to dig into in the beginning. Picking out your evaluation committee, who are going to be the decision makers? Is it people at this table? And those decision makers can change based on what milestone we're hitting during the project too. We'll set up a cadence of phone calls and marketing reports and things of that nature going forward. We also will talk about things. What does the municipality want? Do you want long-term revenue generation over the years? Do you want something up front? Is it more important to have real estate taxes coming in or transfer taxes? All those things are the things we're going to talk about and learn in the beginning. Step 2 is when we start getting into the RFP itself. We create these sort of world-class RFPs that are pleasing to the developers because we sort of speak their language, they're glossy, and we have to strike a balance. It's important at that point because sometimes we see so many RFPs in our world, and a lot of times they become so onerous that developers just say, I can't even look at this. And so that's why we have to be real careful of strike a balance, keep their attention, get them excited about the project. And so we will create a proprietary website, get out to the development world. We have, I mean, our team alone has 20,000 investors, developers, users, pension funds that would, we would go out to globally, regionally, nationally. So that's how we start that process of going out to the market. I'm a big believer, you do not have to, but I'm a believer in press releases. So you're controlling your story out to the market instead of the market controlling the story. We have a wonderful corporate communications group that's very good at that. So that would be part of our phase 2 process. So we're out in the market. It'll depend, we'll decide how onerous we want to be. Are we going to have an upfront bid proposal date, 90 days from when we launched the marketing? We'll discuss all those things. Or are we going to have a pre-bid conference meeting for all the interested parties? Are we going to have a code of silence where none of the developers can speak to the city or the municipality or anybody related to it? Or do we keep it a little more open and they could reach out to Gary and I and they vet their questions as we move along, and we post the answers to those on the website? So everybody's on an even playing field, but there's a little more, movement between. So those are all things that we'll work through depending on what we're going out to the market with. Phase 3 is we have now collected all the bids, and we have apples, oranges, elephants, and coffee makers. Like they all look completely different. So our job is to sort of synthesize all those proposals so they're user-friendly to the evaluation committee. And you can decide, who's a strong developer, what type of balance sheet do they have, what's the, IRR to you, to them. So we synthesize all those, and that's a process, right? That everybody is clarifying questions, going back and forth. And then you ultimately choose a developer. We could go through a best and final process. You might interview everybody. You might interview 2 of them. We'll see. There might be outliers that you're just said, these guys aren't going to be a good fit for us. So then you choose your developer, and off we go to documentation, right? Letters of intent, pre-development agreements, term sheets, depending on the structure. It might be parking with residential on top, and you maintain control of the parking, and we air right it up to the developer, and they're strictly, going to control the residential. So it could be air rights leases, ground leases, all those type of documentation, and we'll walk through that with you all. We are not lawyers. We're not going to write them, but we will work with counsel, internal and or outside counsel, to show you best practices and what we're seeing around the country and what are the business terms that make sense for you all. So that was really quick, but that is our process. And so I would say in a really good situation, we're at a 9-month, 1-year process there. And a lot of it depends on variances and things like that. That's really where the slowdown can be, is in, and getting zoning and things of that nature. That's the only thing that can slow things down. But so that's our process. It's, we do it all the time, and we do speak the developer world, and we attract from all over. As I said, we can go to global, national, regional, and we might end up with a developer quite well who's right in this region. So, or a combination thereof. We just did one for Chicago State University, and it's a great big developer, but we required a very large minority involvement. So they partnered up with a local minority business in Chicago, and optically it's wonderful. It's perfect. It's a very community-centric project. So that might be something that interests you as well. So that's our process. I don't know if you have any questions about that, but and as you all,
I was just going to comment, our general sense is that there will be developer interest. It's a great site. There's a great Mount Lebanon story to tell. But also there are some challenges in the marketplace. Construction costs have continued to rise. So
Skyrocket would be a better word.
yes, spike, yes. So that kind of is a counteracting force on it. So the best way to find out is to do a proper process that not only kind of controls each step, but allows for some creativity on behalf of the developer. There may be uses or combinations of uses we're not thinking of, but a developer might.
yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we're seeing, well, we don't have to get into tonight, but financing gaps almost at on all projects.
But isn't it probably the biggest issue for a developer, the parking and where you put it? And we're gonna replace a lot of our parking?
Yes,
I mean, I would think that right there would be a pretty good incentive.
absolutely. Yes,
I
absolutely.
mean, it seems to me to be the big nut.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, yes, absolutely. I mean, it's super accretive to a developer. You know, but you also have to make sure that the rents that you're getting, you know, some places are requiring affordable, so you've got to keep it to a certain, but if you're not, if you're market rate, you just have to make sure those rents are supporting enough NOI that they can
Right.
finance the project.
Yeah.
That's what it ends up coming down to, but, so these are all the things that we're going to find out and make sure, you know, architects can draw Disneylands all day long. It doesn't mean it's what Mount Lebanon needs, right? So that's the stuff we want to make sure we don't go out with pipe dreams.
How do we, my concern is always, especially on public property, investing into infrastructure in ways is going to be resilient, right? We build for 50 years, but they're gonna be here for 100. This building's a great example. That's not the developer's interest. The developer's interest is to turn a profit, rightfully so. But the municipality has an interest of protecting the long-term value of the community, not just the next 20 years. How do we think about that as we're going through this process with you and exploring developers as a relationship for who's going to be building this next generation of infrastructure?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and you're right, there's a lot of stick build out there. That's mostly stick build.
Right.
So, that's a good question. So I think, you know, best way to mitigate that is to make sure that that is in your evaluation criteria. One, is the developer have the balance sheet to support this type of project? Can they finance this? How much sustainability component is involved in there? I mean, we just did something for City of Ann Arbor that we went out saying everything has to be electric, no gas. So it went, you know, it appealed to everybody in that
Did
sense.
you lead it all? Did you? Yeah,
Yes, yep, they're all,
Yeah.
major developer, Heinz came in and said, absolutely, that's what we're doing everywhere, no problem whatsoever. But also is design. Design is a big one of your evaluation criteria. We'll see if you're going out 20 years, 30 years, well, then it's probably not your partner. But if you're going out 50 plus, that's pretty standard these days. If you can get out, you know, 50 plus years. I know it's not the old, this beautiful building, but, you know, it's gonna last forever. But it's just probably not gonna pencil. But who knows, I mean, we're seeing longer too. It could be more than 50, it could be, I don't know, I think that's what, we can control that dialogue by putting in our evaluation criteria, if that helps at all.
Yeah, I'm genuinely
Design,
curious.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really important, is the design.
I
I
agree
mean,
with you.
huge.
Well,
That's,
but to that end, right, at least the way, and I'm learning. We're controlling, obviously, or primarily gonna control the parking underneath, right? So we're gonna build the foundation, whatever it is. But what goes on top of it is more flexible. If we're gonna give air rights, I feel like I'm, to a certain extent, giving them the determination to say, we're going to do with the air rights what we want, so long as they conform to the zoning, you know, code. But you're saying that, no, you can actually be more constrained than that?
Sure, and we can write that. It's funny because I'm working on one in Champaign, Illinois right now, very similar. The transit district is doing exactly this. They are building the parking, and then the developer is going to build 200 units atop. So we have a reciprocal easement agreement that is spelling out all of that, and pre-development agreement term sheets that are all spelling out who has what control over, you know, the exterior sheeting and I mean, it really gets into it about who has control. And they have control over how the parking is, because they need to know that it's going to be engineered enough to hold all that resi on top. And you're gonna have control over what you can see.
Materials.
Yes,
yeah. I mean, you know,
to a certain degree. I mean, you're not getting into
no, I
closets.
know, but
Right.
this brings to mind, when we drive up and down Washington Road, my husband always goes, I wonder how Super Pave Keith thinks about this, because the pavement peeling up and you were telling me it's because they use super pave or whatever they
First
use.
version of Super Pave.
Yes, well, there was a project that penciled in over in Bloomfield and it made it with some kind of metal sheeting. It was an Art Lupowitz project
Oh, yeah.
and it started peeling off.
Yeah,
Because the material is extremely important after a while.
yeah.
You know, it really, and we don't want that to happen here. I don't want to see that coming on, yeah. So,
There will be
Especially
a
with our
lot of,
Midwest winters.
well,
there'll be a
it's-
lot of details to work through
Oh, yeah,
with the
sure.
developer.
yeah, and I'm glad to hear that.
Who's responsible for what in terms of future maintenance,
Mhm.
all of those types of things.
Snow
And this-
removal, all, you
Yeah.
know.
So again, I know, nobody ever wants to hear a negative, but potentially we could go through the process and maybe we don't find a developer that can make the site pencil, right? Even with,
Right.
if it's Alerta, if it's a TIF, if
sure.
it's a whatever, it just doesn't pencil.
Yeah.
I still think that we can take valuable information away from going through the process.
Yeah, I agree.
And also try to position ourselves for what I will call a future market, so that we construct whatever it is that we are going to build, because we don't have an option, we need to put parking back in. But to construct that in such a way that it will structurally support some additional floors at some point in the future, should the market change. And give us, again, that opportunity
Flexibility, sure.
to be able to move forward at a point in the future if we can't do it now, for sure.
Absolutely. There's more here, and I can talk about more, but that's really the gist of what we wanted to talk about was our approach, and if you had any questions. I mean, we all know that P3s are, you know, municipalities are using them more and more. It obviously transfers risk from you all to the developer. It taps into their expertise, their speed to completion, competitive pricing, you know, their creativity and, you know, everything that comes with that. And you're reaching out to CBRE. Fortunately, we have an extreme reach. So as I said, we're going to tap into developers that you might not have picked them, but we may grab some of their ideas and bring it to the table and merge some ideas for a project. So, yeah, I don't have to sell you on P3s, but they're
Right.
highly effective.
And the partnership is, obviously, there's more here than just a vacant piece of land. This is
Right.
it's more of a partnership because we've got an entire garage and the municipality has requirements for that garage.
Right.
Do you have any experience in terms of, I know that you referenced the one where, you know, one entity built the garage structure in such a way that the developer could then put the 200 units over top.
Yes.
Is that the most effective way to do that? Or have you been in situations where the developer comes in and says, hey, I'm gonna build it all. The municipality will finance X number of dollars of that as the return for the parking that you need. And I only ask the question because I watched the hotel project that we affectionately referred to here for a couple of years as Hotel Tyvek, because it sort of sat a little bit in limbo, because there was one company that came in and did the garage parking structure, and then a separate developer came in and actually built the hotel piece. And there was a little bit of, I'll say, disconnect between the two different, you know, firms in terms of who was doing what.
Was it one RFP that went out for that, for the hotel and the parking?
It was not a municipal project, so I don't know how they issued it,
Yeah, that may be one
but
mitigating factor there. Sure, and again, we don't know how we would go out yet. You know, maybe we keep it a little more open and let developers say, you know, we want to own that parking. And, you know, instead of having an air rights lease that goes back to the municipality, maybe they retain those dollars and they can make it pencil by owning the parking. And maybe the municipality has a long-term lease of 100 spaces. And it gives them that secure revenue that they can actually go out and get you know, some sort of bond financing based on that revenue source. So yes, there's a lot of ways to get this, and you know, and maybe we don't go out specific like that. Maybe we let it open to the developers to come up with their own.
So wouldn't it be more effective if we bought the parking from them after it was built. Because then it would give us the ability to borrow tax exempt, where if they were borrowing, they would have to borrow taxable.
True, yeah, true. I mean, unless you did lease back that space, they could go out and probably get tax exempt bond financing based on the security of your lease. They would, the issuer would go into a 501c3 issuance body. We've seen a lot. And there's one called Providence out of Austin. There's, a lot of different 501c3 that they'll issue on behalf of the developer. If there's a certain stabilized lease from the municipality. But, there's a lot of ways to get into the tax exempt.
Should we run it through the IDA?
Something.
Yeah, you could,
We have an industrial development for it.
yeah, I've heard that before, yeah. So, and and the whole other thing we haven't even talked about is how close you are to the transit. I mean, that's a whole nother
Yeah.
level of financing that is extraordinarily competitively priced.
So,
Depends on their structure though, because it has to be it would be applied to the parking probably, because you could say that the transit users are using the parking structure, so then it's a public impacting entity, and then you could tap into FTA financing dollars or TIFIA. I'm not sure what you guys call it on a local level, but, and it could be, I don't want to promise anything right now because I don't know all the ins and outs, but that's a whole nother thing that you can tap into if it applies to that T line, but I'm not positive it does, but it might. Yeah. So,
Interesting.
that's phase one. These are all things that happen in phase one. But you have in your packet, case studies that we have going on all over. So, but the one that's probably most relevant to you all is the Mass Transit District in Champaign, Illinois, and it is bifurcated like that. So, but it was one RFP, and it has so much crossover and pre-development and easement agreements, and that so you're secured in your control. And they were proposing air rights lease from. They are going to lease the air rights from you, so you would get an air rights lease payment, and you get a percentage of any so the total gross revenues, anything upside of that, off of a baseline of that, you would participate in that, whether it's 10%, 15%, 20%. So there's just a lot of different ways to show, to generate revenues on a long-term basis. But we can also let the market tell us what they want.
Yeah. In the end, that's what the big thing is.
Yeah, but it's an exciting project. I think you've already done a lot of due diligence, which is really impressive. So.
Great.
Okay, sure, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, I didn't follow along with it.
It's because I was logged in as room C for my meeting 2 weeks ago, and Nick kicked me out.
Oh, dear.
He said, "You shall not pass."
well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Very informative.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, next up is Gateway with upcoming projects. Mr. Dicerath, how are you this evening?
Just here to give the commission an update on one ongoing project and some other projects that we have out to bid. I think you got in your packet our summary that basically we just want to give you an update on the pool filtration renovations. That's been ongoing through this brutal winter, so it's progressing. And then we'll just talk briefly about the south garage maintenance. Continued maintenance on that until we get a new facility, as we talked about earlier. And then the facade restorations, both at the older section of Public Works building and the continued work on the safety center. So, as you might be aware, last year we bid and awarded the contract after a design by a pool designer, Kunzelman Hunsaker. We've been assisting with the construction, administration, and inspection of that project. This was a lot of concern with the contractor and through the bidding We've been staying very close on the schedule. Of course, we want to make sure the pool gets open on time. But this is a big project, 1.3 million. Its final due completion date is May 2nd. And to the contractor's credit, he's worked through this brutal winter and accomplished a good bit of things. But we're now on the home stretch between March and May to get a lot of work done. And to date, we've had a couple changes to the project. There was a davit crane, which was something that was added to the project that will help David and his staff more efficiently deal with the pumps and so forth. I have some pictures here so you'll get an idea of the complexity of the filtration room down there. And then we found a storm drain, of course, was not on anybody's map. We didn't see it with ground penetrating radar, but we had to work a pipe around the tank, a rather large tank that we have. So that's been completed at this point. And just some other things that are going on. There are some pumps and so forth that are now being reviewed to see if we need to do any upgrades to those pumps or motors. And we're looking for a cost from the contractor. In fact, the representative from the pool designer is actually coming in from St. Louis tomorrow to do a site visit to actually look over all of the details that are now really in the focus of their design. So that's where we're moving. So what I'm going to show you here first, this is the door that leads into the filtration room here to the far right. This is the new housing, the concrete tank that will be used for the new pool filtration unit. So they have to get this new 3,000 pound filter through the door and into this tank. It's going to be quite a challenge. You can see all the piping and the pumps here in the back.
Yeah.
And then along with the core of this was the filtration, replacement of the filtration system that's been limping along. So this is where the new filter will go, inside the building. But then on the exterior, there's a surge tank. And what the surge tank does, when everybody gets in the pool, there has to be a place for that displaced water to go. There's not been ever been a surge tank, and this was a recommendation to complete this tank, which will ultimately take the surge from the water, allow the filtration system to more evenly work through as the water is held into the surge tank, and the fluctuations of that with people coming in and out of the pool. I don't know all the intricacies of that design. I know enough to be dangerous. But as you can see, they've actually poured the cap now on top of the tank. This was the open tank before they put the cap on top of it. This is now the pool deck. You can see the pool building in the background here. There's some other work that has to be done to replace other deck as it goes around the facility. So again, the project is moving along as best we can. They were chipping snow and ice out of here about a month ago to allow some of this the work to go to get the concrete work done. So this was the major focus for a while. Now we're going to get into piping, all the equipment, finish up the electrical, clean the place up. So there's a million things to do because, of course, David has to get the pool prepped at the same time. So we'll be trying to coordinate working around this contractor finishing while David's trying to get the pool prepped and ready for open at the end of May. That's it on the pool filtration project. I can try to answer any questions if anybody has any.
So I know that prediction markets are a big thing nowadays. So what are the odds that we're going to actually open on?
I think if it's up to the contractor, he's been there every day. He has people there every day. So it's not like they're not putting forth the effort. I think once we get a couple of these questions answered, we're going to lay out a detailed schedule for tasks to be completed to make it to the end. And we're going to hold everybody to it. We're going to have weekly meetings to make sure everybody's doing what they need to do. And we're going to put the push on it. So I'd say right now I'm 90% sure we're going to be complete.
And that's not just, right, the contractor, but also the ability for David,
Yeah, open.
Mr. Donnell, and to actually do everything that's necessary around the construction.
Yes, I mean, we've been speaking with them in our project meetings. They understand that we have a lot of work to do in the tank, welding, painting. So we're gonna have to coordinate side by side. Tile work has to go on the deck, so they need to get out of the area they're in right now. So this is where all the action happens, where the sausage is made. I mean, a lot is gonna happen in April. And then May is essentially gonna be turned over to us, and we're gonna just put the final touches on things.
Yeah, we'll have a better idea once the pool consultant comes in tomorrow to just address a couple of the questions that the contractor has, make sure everybody's on track with the piping and so forth like that. So we'll continue to report back to the commission and give you a better prediction. Okay, to projects that we have out the bid right now, the South Garage structural maintenance. This is year 3 of 5. We had a 5-year plan on maintenance on the existing South Garage to make sure it's safe and to be open and operational. So this year's project, we're going to focus on levels 4 and 5. The work will take place in the summer of 2026. We'll work with Andrew and his crew to make sure that the parking garage can stay open and how people will gain access and get out and so forth. But bids will be opened in March. The estimate of the project cost is around $200,000. We're going to stick with that budget. The work that's going to take place, and I'm sure people have seen it if you've walked down the ramp, we continue to see deterioration of the deck. You can see the exposure, and we've been taking care of different levels each year. This is the bridge that come in. That was one of the first things that was done. This bridge comes in off Washington Road. You can see the deterioration under the deck. You can see exposed rebar. But they basically chip those patches out and do an epoxy type of a coating that goes on top of those. They have to put scaffolding up and work on different levels. It takes time to do it to make sure it's secure and it adheres and it'll continue to work. But that's the type of work that's going on. The next one to talk about is the Public Works building facade. This is the focus on the northern facade near the fuel station. We're going to do tuck pointing. The term tuck pointing means that they're basically going to go in and peel out the existing masonry about 3/4 of an inch and replace it with new masonry. So it's like a full pointing. We're going to do that on both the brick, the stone, and any of the joints, repairing cracked bricks. Where we see cracked bricks, they pull them out and replace them with new brick. There's some concrete block infill that we'll have to do on the inside of the building, and just a series of different things. There's also additional caulking of joints that are skyward. When we mean skyward, that's any of the joints that are they're not vertical on the wall, but they're sort of flat. They get the rain falls directly on them, so they deteriorate also. There's some lintel repairs. Lintels are basically beams that run above the top of doorways and windows and stuff like that. So we'll be working on those. So a whole bunch of miscellaneous items. The budget on this is $45,000. And again, we're taking bids on that in March. And then finally, we'll give you some pictures on that. So this is the north facade. If you're driving in to the Public Works facility off of Lindendale, this is the face that you can see. He says distressed headers here. Those are the lintels above the windows. There's some existing penetrations through the walls that we're going to get these put back in brick, and just deal with some of the cracked mortar joints and so forth that are on the front of the building.
This is the old building, it's not
Yes.
part of the new construction.
Not the new
that was
construction,
done.
correct.
At this point, that's a little bit of an open air facility, which is not.
Right.
And then this will just give you just a more close-up look at some of the open mortar joints. And again, the penetrations that you see on the wall, just some more close-up pictures. And then finally, in terms of the public safety center facade, This is a 4-year maintenance project. 2026 is year 2 of 4. And again, we're working on the rear facade, I'll say facing the parking lot. And we have the base bid, and we also have some alternate bid items. Last year, the prices came in really well, and we were able to get 2 faces done on the building. So again, depending upon the numbers that come in this year, if we'll have additional work ready to assign to the project to sort of accelerate that 2-year program and make it go faster than 4-year, or the 4-year program and make it go faster. Again, we're gonna do the tuck pointing, the full pointing on the stone and the brick joints, repairing cracked areas. There's some full areas where some brick needs cut out and replaced. Again, we're doing the work on the skyward joints, the stone joints, cove joints, every kind of joint imaginable. So it's a full restoration on the facade. And the alternate bid, we'll take an alternate bid. I'll call it the north elevation, the one that faces the cemetery. And then we also have work to take place on the planters and on the generator enclosure. There'll also be, I believe we're gonna do some cleaning of all this. Yeah, we're gonna do pressure washing and cleaning. There's a lot of effervescence on the brick and the stone of the building. So that'll be taken care of on this facade also. Again, open up on March, and the cost estimate on this one is $100,000. So just getting into some of the pictures, you can see this is a combination of stone, brick, and so forth. And we have the windows. So it's this rear facade, and then we have the planters that still need work. And I think we ultimately show the generator, it's the generator enclosure, and just some other areas that show, if you're out there and closer, these pictures don't do them justice, that this needs the work. And then just to summarize on this, we will be taking bids. We put this as all as one package, because we think it's all very similar work, even though it's at 3 different locations. We're going to try to take advantage of the size of the project that way, and we're also cutting down on the administration cost of additional contractor to deal with all those other things. So we think this is the way to go after doing this for a couple of years and talking to some of the contractors. So that's the advantage. I can answer any questions.
Right. So you will see upcoming agenda items
Right.
once we open bids.
Sure.
I would imagine probably the first meeting in April, because we're late,
Yes,
April 14th.
that should work. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Next up, we have Chief Christoffel, and I believe Deputy Chief Quachak to talk about purchase of a new fire engine. Buy a lot of them. I don't want to be directly involved, I don't want to spec them, but I'm very familiar with their price tag.
Let me figure out how to share my screen. I messed that up. Sorry, give me 1 second. There we go. There we go. Sharing screen. Not sharing screen.
Don't worry, you're ahead of schedule, so you have 7 minutes to.
Fiddle around.
Share entire screen. Why will I do that?
Ian,
We're good.
I was gonna
I
say,
think you got it now.
I was gonna ask a question, but you
Sorry.
figured it out.
You got it.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
All right. Apologize about the delay. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. So with me, I have Deputy Chief Quachak. He was our lead on the apparatus committee. Thought that it was important to bring this to the commission so that we have a better understanding of kind of what goes into speccing out a fire truck. It's a little bit different than like a staff vehicle or, you know, even a bulldozer or a backhoe or a bulldozer. So there's a lot that really goes into it. So Deputy Chief Quachak's our subject matter expert on it. He's been on the last 2 apparatus committee meetings, so we're gonna kind of tag team this. So starting out, the commission received our apparatus replacement plan as part of your packet that you received last week. So that apparatus replacement program gets updated annually, and it's been a culmination of former Fire Chief Sahida, Deputy Chief Daniels, and our operations division to actually come up with that program. And there's not many like it. It's very detailed. A lot of fire departments out there, whenever they look at a fire engine, they just say, okay, we need a fire engine, and they pick one out of a book and they say, this is what we want. But there's a lot more that goes into it, specifically for Mount Lebanon. So the 5-year replacement cycle, so we replace the frontline engine every 5 years, and that's detailed in that program. The reason why we do that, a couple reasons. Number one, ISO, which on the side of the fire truck you see ISO Class 1, that's the Insurance Services Offices. In order to receive full credit for fire suppression vehicles, we need 2 frontline fire engines and 1 reserve engine. So that's why we have 3. So the 2 front lines, they're for 10 years. So it goes from frontline first due to frontline second due, and then it goes to third due or that reserve engine. So that puts them at a 15-year replacement cycle. Reason 15 years, the National Fire Protection Agency, NFPA, tells us, and it's a consensus standard, we do not have to follow it, but we try to follow NFPA to the maximum extent practical. They say that we should get a new fire engine every 15 years. So that's why the 5-year replacement cycle. Then in that packet, you'll see the American Public Works Association. We use that rating scale for serviceability. And anything over that mark, we look at replacement. So there's a couple that are due or close to due for replacement. And that's kind of the crux of why we replace it every 5 years. So in the past, and I'll let Deputy Chief Quachak talk about this, but we had a new committee every 5 years for a new engine. Would you like to talk about that?
Sure, yeah. So historically, that's just the way it's worked, is every 5 years, the fire chief appoints a committee, and for better or worse, they every 5 years reinvent the wheel and come up with a different idea or a different design. And it's well intended, but we kind of wind up in the situation we are now. We have 3 fire engines that are all very different, different configurations, different storage, different manufacturers. So from a maintenance standpoint and also a training standpoint, it makes it very difficult to keep up with some of the stuff when it's spread out across 3 manufacturers, and also to train new members when there's 3 separate fire engines to train them all. Same concept, but stuff's in different spots in each one. So I was approached by Chief Sahada in 2002, and the goal was to come up with a very consistent standard that when we go to replace an engine every 5 years, to just keep a consistent spec so that there's not necessarily a need for a whole reinvention every 5 years.
Whenever he says different configurations, so everybody would think that the fire pump is in the middle of the fire truck. On some of ours, it's in the rear because we tried something different, and then some of them it's in the middle. So it makes it very difficult to be operationally consistent, and then you get a call and one engine's out, and then the other one has to go out, and everything's in a different location. So we actually call it compartment slamming, where you're opening up a compartment, you're like, oh, not this fire truck, it's in the other one, I gotta shut that door and open up this one.
There's a whole thing in hospital design now where you
Yes.
walk into a room and everything is in the same place in this room as it is in the next, as it is in the next.
It's actually the
Efficiency
Toyota
changes.
principle.
Yep,
It's called the
Yeah.
Toyota principle. I've used it in many places where I worked at.
cuts down on errors, et cetera, et cetera.
And,
Yeah.
and if you get really good at it, you can actually outline where things are supposed to be, and if you look, something's missing, you know immediately
That
that
it's
that
not
tool
there,
is missing.
Yeah, so in 2021, 2022-ish, we formed a committee, and the idea again was to really spend a lot of time and develop this spec from the ground up, and it to be one that we stick with. So we spent a lot of time, the committee met extensively, and we sought input from 3 separate manufacturers at the time. We presented them with our spec, we received bids back, and we wound up with a good one, I think.
So the current climate, this is kind of why, engine 1, which is the one that this will replace, is not due until 2028. But right now, the fire apparatus climate is, and, you know, in general, the entire economy, right now, like there was called the Rev Group. The Rev Group was one fire apparatus manufacturer. Oshkosh, which owns Pierce, which is the one that we're looking at, and Rosenbauer control over 75% of the fire truck market right now. So with that, costs have, and I'll use Commissioner Swagger Wilson's comment before, have skyrocketed.
Exactly.
And you will see how much they've skyrocketed, but other things that go into it, so complex electrical parts, that NFPA, they will not build a fire truck that's not NFPA compliant. And many things that you have in your car, we have now in the fire truck. So for instance, everything in the cab, which if in the event of an accident, unfortunate accident, would become like a projectile, right? So everything has to meet 5G, you know,
Sure.
shock testing. And then the other one that really drove up the cost in the beginning was seat belts. So for some reason, the fire service could not buckle our seat belts, although it was a state law. Now, Mount Lebanon has never had this problem, but other, you know, we have to follow the industry standards. So the firefighters would not buckle their seat belts on the way to the call. So originally it started out with a red seat belt, not that much money. Well, that didn't work, so they then put in a seatbelt sensor that said if you were buckled. People were buckling the seatbelt
And sitting on it.
behind them, yeah.
Yeah.
So now we actually have a computer system that tells us whether you buckled and sat down or sat down and buckled. The next step is that it will not go, and there's loud alarms that go off. The next step is going to be that it will not go into gear, or the parking brake will not release until everybody's seated and buckled. So every one of those little nuances add to the cost of a fire truck. And again, we don't have that problem in Mount Lebanon, but the rest of the country
Pay
does.
for it.
So, yeah, we
Stubborn
unfortunately have to pay for it.
firefighters.
The other one that they're talking about is excessive steel costs. You know, just the price of steel keeps going up, and tariffs, because a lot of these parts come from out of the country. All of that has led to delivery time. So this is why we're doing this now. If we order this fire truck tomorrow, it's going to be 24 to 30 months out. So we will receive it in the middle of 2028. And then the other thing that's kind of come into this play right now is antitrust lawsuits. So there's 3 of them that I know of out there right now. I'm sure there's probably more, but the big ones are LA County, the entire state of Wisconsin, and the International Association of Firefighters have all went to the government for antitrust laws because of that 75%. So that's kind of the climate that we're dealing with right now. This is the actual neat part, and so Mount Lebanon has some unique things, and I'm going to hope that I wow you here at some point in time with something that you did not know about Mount Lebanon. So every fire engine has to be NFPA 1900 compliant, which is the fire apparatus standard. And that talks about tools, you know, what tools it has to have on it, what pump size it has to have, tank size, all of those. Cramp angle. So a cramp angle is like, and that's the turning radius. That deals with the turning radius of the apparatus. So you can get a couple different kinds of cabs. You can save money by going with a commercial cab, which would look like a dump truck or a dump truck front end and the fire truck on the back end. That actually adds to the wheelbase of the vehicle, which makes the turning radius worse. And it deals with a couple other, you can high center things much easier. So Cramp angles are important to Mount Lebanon, some very specific turns in town. Academy Avenue, and others that, cul-de-sacs, we have a lot of cul-de-sacs that have, it's not just an open cul-de-sac, it has a curb around the cul-de-sac. And then divided roads. So one of the hardest to get into, two of the hardest to get into in town are Main Line. So because
Sure.
it has
Yeah,
a
yeah,
divided,
yeah,
it's a
because
divided
that's
road,
Yeah, Island.
and Rockland Place.
Yep. Yeah,
Those
those
two
have
are very,
islands.
very difficult to get a fire engine,
Uh-huh.
and sometimes actually easier to get it in the wrong way. And we have to think about that when we're going down the street,
Meaning driving up the wrong
driving up
lane.
the wrong way.
Yeah.
So in an emergency,
Well, at least you're
naturally, we would do that, yeah. So the other interesting thing is angles of approach and departure. So angle of approach is whenever you're coming up to a hill,
Yeah.
and the departure is the approach is the front end, departure is the back end. So everybody knows about Arlington Park, because you've probably been stuck while a delivery truck tried to get up Arlington Park and got stuck halfway up because the back end drug. That's the angle of departure.
Okay.
So the angle of approach is the front end, and normally you do not have that problem with a commercial cab, which is that international cab that, like on a dump truck. But on a fire truck, the commercial cab, or the custom cab or cab over design, put the front wheels behind the driver so that it made the turning radius tighter and the wheelbase shorter, but it made it more difficult to get up. So there is one in town that is absolutely astounding, and that is Summer Place. Summer Place, on the private section of Summer Place, there is a slight hill that every fire truck before 2003 got caught on. They could not go up that way.
Wow.
So now, these are things that we have to think about whenever whenever they're doing this, apparatus committees. Height and width, so naturally we have to help out Dormont as well. But some of our streets are pretty tight as well with people parking and, opposing or zigzagging the parking. So they're tight to get through. And then the height's actually kind of an interesting one. So not only do we have to worry about street trees, basketball hoops. So everybody has a basketball hoop, they put it on the side of the street.
Sure.
And if it's
Yeah.
too high, we will hit it with the fire truck if we don't see it at night. So
Sure.
we worry about height. The hose and ladder complement, for years, we kind of changed a little bit of the way that we do business. But we have to have different hose lengths for different areas of town. We have some pretty significant setbacks on McNeely Road that you have to go over a bridge. We cannot take the fire truck over those bridges. McNeely Road on the right side going down McNeely Road, we have to worry, but we cannot take a fire truck
Oh, I
across
know
those
where you're
bridges
talking about. Oh, my God, yeah.
because of the creek. So,
I
What
bet
about
you
the
couldn't.
little road
Yeah.
that goes up there?
yeah, the little road, McCormick, this fire engine will fit on McCormick.
Okay.
So those are things we've got to worry about, and then the equipment complement. So there's some other things that are not required by NFPA that we carry. And those are really about what our resident needs are. So things like salvage vacs, so you call the fire department, we suck up the water from a water
Oh, yeah,
leak
yeah,
or
yeah.
wonder.
Yeah.
Some of the things that we carry that are non-conventional.
Right.
Yeah, ice, so we don't suck up the ice.
Yeah, I know.
But, so those are like the unique things that Mount Lebanon Fire Department does for the residents that we have to incorporate into these fire trucks. Safety considerations, so we worry about the safety of our firefighters. In the last engine, we were able to get something called the Sentinel system. And it was right in the middle, or right at the end of COVID.
Yeah.
The Sentinel system actually, it runs in the cabin. It's an air purification system that will take carcinogens out of the
Nice,
air
nice,
and
yeah.
airborne viruses. So we're looking out for those kinds of things. So clean cab, we worry about this clean cab concept. And you wouldn't think about it, but so we take our fire gear, we go into a fire with our SCBA and our turnout gear on, and then we do a tour of the fire station. We put a kid up in that seat.
Sure.
So we worry about having a clean cab concept
Right.
and keeping that clean. And then we also, Deputy Chief Quachek and his committee worked with the Public Works Department and the mechanic. We try to get things that are very similar so that He doesn't have to keep an array of filters and fuel filters and oil filters and different kinds of parts. So we try to maintain kind of the same thing. All right. There you go, Steve. Back to you.
Yes, it's going back, like I said, in 2002, we designed it, and then back in 2002, you could order one and get it the next year. So in 2003, we took delivery of that. It was Pierce, their model name is the Enforcer. It's our newest pumper. It was the work of that committee. It's a very simplified design. It's very basic, but it meets all of our needs. It's curve specified. It's a shorter wheelbase, and overall just very ergonomically friendly. So stuff that we use frequently is down lower, stuff's easier to grab. Overall, most of the crew is very happy with the way this turned out.
And now for a there it is.
And just back to the previous point, it was a lot easier this time when we were able to kind of not have to start from scratch again. So if you look on the left, that was the truck that we ordered and we're now driving around. And we were able to present the same spec again to a couple manufacturers and say, hey, can you try to build this? And having that framework already in place made it significantly easier. So it's not a trick question, but there's very, very few changes from the left to the right. They're not identical, but for the most part they are. One of the biggest things we strove for was that if there are any changes to the new one, they're going to be able to be retroactively changed on the current model that we have. So again, keeping with that consistency
Nice.
aspect.
For little to zero cost.
Yeah.
Little
Nice.
to zero
Really
cost.
nice.
So if we, like Chief said earlier, if we were able to order tomorrow, we're still looking at 2-ish years, but a lot of that's just lead time based on parts availability and stuff. They actually manufacture the truck in about 4 months. We just signed the paperwork just to get in line.
And do they guarantee the price?
Yes. Yeah, once we sign, that locks it in.
Once you actually sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand, but I mean, I had heard about some open-ended municipal contracts, not about
Yes.
us necessarily, but I'd heard that was beginning to happen.
And there are certain manufacturers that tend to do that.
Yeah.
We're going with one that doesn't do that, but I've heard some horror stories of other manufacturers coming back a year later and saying, hey, by the way,
Right, I mean,
Pay
forget
their-
it, yeah.
Almost $600,000
Yeah.
increase
Yeah.
from what was shown in this
Yeah, I was just gonna get, perfect question, Commissioner Petty. So he said, well, 3 times the cost. So I put some costs up there. The 2018
Yeah.
was $578, $529. And the 2028, 10 years later, it's $1.5 million.
That's why they have antitrust suits against it.
Yeah.
It's exactly why.
So
This is what happens.
3 times the cost. So to put it in perspective, and Manager McGill just made the comment, I got a price, not an official quote, but a price
Ballpark.
in May of last year for the capital improvement plan.
Uh-huh.
935 or
35 or 953 is the number you'll see in the CIP for
in the CIP,
2028.
so
We're almost
Yeah, I can see it,
$600,000
really.
over
That's
that
a fair
number.
boy.
just
if we order.
in 9 months.
Yeah.
So the most important thing is so that we get it before it goes up again. So payment options, so one good thing, so we'll work with the finance department. You'll see something on the agenda item called Sourcewell. We worked with Andrew on this. Sourcewell is it's like CoStars,
Yeah.
but it's national.
Okay,
So we get a better price on everything because of it's a national versus CoStars. There's a couple different payment options that we will work with finance on in the commission. You can pay everything up front, you can pay the cab and chassis, and you get some discounts for that. To offset this, a couple things that we'll be doing. So Manager McGill and Greg Wharton gave me some info on some, I don't know what the right, not standard grants.
Grant funding, from Congressman Deluzio's breakfast, they
good.
provided us
Sure.
with grant
Yeah.
information for a couple different buckets that
Excellent.
may be available.
right.
One of which would be applicable to a piece of fire apparatus, whether or not we qualify or are able to receive it, but
Yeah,
we'll at least
sure.
get the application.
That's not one of the standard grants that we go for, but we will be going for another, it's called the American Firefighters Grant, or Assistance to Firefighters Grant, AFG. That's a federal FEMA grant. We'll be trying for that. Most likely will not meet the requirements for it, but we're still gonna go for it. And then the other thing that's kind of in our favor right now because of the cost of this fire apparatus being 1.5 million, and the fact that 2.5 years lead time for a fire truck, the costs of used fire apparatus are going up.
Right.
So we will be selling
Sell
engine
ours,
one, and the proceeds of
Yeah.
engine one will go toward, to offset the cost of this. So normally, in the past, it's been about $60,000. We can, and I don't wanna put a number on it, but I'm sure that we can probably get a significantly higher number for
Sure.
it because people are looking for fire trucks.
And we saw something similar coming out of the pandemic when vehicle prices were, we were getting substantially more for our used vehicles
Right,
than we had anticipated, which was a good thing. I mean, we were paying more on the
sure.
front end, but we were
Everything
also
helps.
sort of offsetting a little bit by getting more on the back end.
Any questions for us?
Nope, good job.
We
Very
greatly
interesting.
appreciate the commission and all of your support to the fire department over the years and with all of our, purchases. So thank you very much.
Nick Sahida told me when I started as a commissioner that everybody loves the fire department. He said, they're the easiest, you can't go wrong with them. All the citizens love the firemen. I'm like, okay, I'll keep that in mind.
They still do.
I know, right?
And from a budget standpoint, the
Yes.
commission was proactive based on conversation with the chief and finance director. There's $600 already that's allocated towards the purchase of this apparatus, so.
$600?
600,000.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just
I trailed off at the end.
$600.
Yeah, I just
We
want
can't even fill the tank, probably.
What a topic.
Jeez.
All right, well, we are well ahead of schedule. It is 7:40 and we have until 8 PM. So we
Wow.
have plenty of times for boards and authorities and then breathe between this and the next meeting. There you go. Would anybody like to give an update?
I gotta think now, wait a minute. I missed finance because I was in Florida vacationing. But I did make it back for the library board meeting. The big news there is that the garden tour is probably going to be virtual this year because we've run out of gardens. So we're gonna take a breather and the staff and a group of committee people are kind of busily working on how they can change it, do things differently, et cetera, this year. Staff has also pulled back on programming this year because of the expectation that they will be under construction, hopefully, with at least phase one of the library project, so. And I think that's it. I'm trying to think, was there anything else? Nope. Should I bring up the E stuff? E-resources? All right, yeah, okay. So one thing that is affecting the library budget is e-resources. So if you have a library card anywhere across the system, not just us, but in any community, you can get our e-resources, and libraries have special databases that you just don't Google and get. You have to be able to access them. And what we've seen is that usage is growing by leaps and bounds, but not necessarily by people from Mount Lebanon. That people from other towns, Wexford, et cetera, are taking advantage of ours being essentially free and applying. So the library staff is looking at what those numbers come out as, because the amount we have to pay is dependent on usage. So should we be thinking eventually, we'll have to pull out the numbers to see, but should we be restricting it to people who have a home library of Mount Lebanon or continue to keep it open? So that's a study being undertaken.
Can you limit it?
Yes.
We have resources currently that are limited by, you have to be a Mount Lebanon Library card holder. We have other resources that are not
Other
available
resources that are, I think, yes,
I'm
yes.
saying that we already do that type
Yeah,
of thing with
Thing for
other
other
resources
ones, yeah.
outside of the
Yes.
ACLA e-resources.
I mean, that's the biggest part of the library budget that's growing too, are those e-resources, the
Once
usage.
Rackle
It's like,
occurs.
you know, going through the roof, so.
Seems like the theme today. Everything's skyrocketing.
Oh, golly, and that price of gas, you know, what the heck, yeah. Yep, that's it, sir. MRTSA meets Wednesday, so I'm trying to think if there's anything on the MRTSA.
Helmets. I think I saw something along the lines of helmets. I don't remember though. I haven't looked yet.
Yeah, there is a request for purchasing new helmets. I saw that as well, but I haven't really dug into it yet.
Yeah, nor have I.
And
Yeah.
MRTSA was at the breakfast, and while it's
Yes.
not a federal issue,
Yes,
Congressman DeLuzio was extremely interested in actually trying to move a bill forward that's apparently sitting on somebody's desk that would make sure that payments from private insurers went directly to the ambulance service companies and not to the holder of the insurance.
that's a problem we've had where, I'm gonna use you, Nick. Nick, you know, goes by ambulance to UPMC and Blue Cross Blue Shield pays Nick and not us, and then we can't recover the money. Yeah, that's the,
Based on what was discussed at that meeting, it would make a significant difference
makes
from
significant.
a revenue standpoint. I also did not realize, although I should, based on how much I've learned about MRTS in the last year, that 70% of our revenues are through Medicare. And Medicare does not, actually Medicaid now reimburses at a higher rate than Medicare.
And Medicare just raised their rates last year, so it's not like, but they're still well under what it costs us to send an ambulance. So you're underwriting all the Medicare people.
Other updates?
Anything exciting? Come on, guys, so, nothing other than bad news
For the
and.
Historical Society, we just did the reception for the Barrier Breaking Women. A lot of great women leaders presented, which was phenomenal. They have, it's Friday Night Lights, that's activities that they're gonna have that's gonna correspond to the NFL Draft. And on April 25th, author Mike Eck.
Eck, yes, former Mount Lebanon student, quarterback for the 1979. The only reason I know that is because it's the same year I was in high school.
Oh.
But yes.
Yes, he wrote a book, Strike Season, and he's going to do a presentation for that. Parks and Rec, Phil from Public Works presented on the changes that are going to be taking place to Rockwood Park.
Yeah.
So that was the major things.
Nice. Good list.
The Civic Engagement Board selected their Volunteer of the Year. This year it's Ron Block, who has really done amazing things as part of the Mount Lebanon Nature Conservancy. He's just been an incredible force, getting rid of the invasive species and the other issues we have in Bird Park, as amongst other parts of our community. So very excited. And then on April 30th, we'll have our annual recognition dinner with the municipality for all of our municipal volunteers. And we'll be honoring this year's Volunteer of the Year, and then also last year's, who was Asked to Kill. And she's been incredibly instrumental with starting our Pride celebrations here in Mount Lebanon. So we're grateful to honor both of them. And we have Coffee with the Cop coming up on April 24th at Orbis. That's always very popular. Last time there's a line out the door. So people are looking forward to doing that. And and members of the committee continue to point out things that they think maybe could be changed or make a difference with our community.
Just add some
So-
firemen in, obviously, since they're the
Yeah.
most popular,
They'll be
right?
around the block.
Yeah, and then the Mount Lebanon Partnership is gearing up for the farmers market, which will start in late May. And they are also working on the artists market. A lot of discussions about zonings. That's something that's very important to them. We've had the some zoning consultants come in and talk to us, and there's a subcommittee from the partnership which is also very much involved in zoning. So I appreciate hearing their voices, knowing their changes. They know often what works well in Uptown Mount Lebanon. So I appreciate their expertise. And then also with outreach, they have a new director. They're excited about that. And then they have a gala coming up in like mid-May, which is always an amazing fundraiser. They're raising, close to like $100,000 now. So it's been wonderful to see their organization really progress over the years. So it's black tie optional. So, yeah.
Awesome. Mobility Board hasn't met yet. We will be meeting shortly, next week. 2 weeks. All right, thank you. But definitely very interested in the active transportation plan and how that is progressing. We haven't gotten updates yet, but I know that they're all looking forward to that update and participating there. Connect has been very busy. We had a member meeting last week, I believe. Yes, last week in Forest Hills. Met at their municipal building, which is a very highly sustainable building. Mayor DeMarco worked really hard to make that a fully sustainable building, and it is fantastic. Brilliant. She actually said that they're working with Duquesne Light about trying to put in a microgrid.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Right, which is one of the challenges, but
Right.
she said that she thinks she's found the right contacts at Duquesne Light to work
Wow.
on that issue, right? I know.
That'd be terrific.
One of those things that I was
Yeah.
hoping we could accomplish someday too.
Yes, yeah. It's really a safety thing, if nothing else. I
Right.
mean, it's really a security issue that someone takes down the grid and takes down everybody.
Right.
So, the microgrid idea is really of great value.
Yeah, there's a lot of infrastructure, but it's a neat
Yes.
opportunity.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of,
We're
just
also
trying to.
under electrified in Mount Lebanon.
Yes, we are.
We've learned, so that also could be,
All the wires are above the ground.
well,
That's a
yeah, they
difference.
should all.
As long as keep knocking them down,
I know.
we'll get closer to putting money there.
The other, so at the Connect meeting, we had an update from two individuals. One was from PennDOT to talk about the closure of the tunnel or the bridge going into the Squirrel Hill
Street
Tunnel,
Bridge,
Commercial
yeah.
Street Bridge, thank you. That sounds like that is going to be quite the adventure for many residents. It sounds like, so it's gonna be closed for 25 days because they are currently building the bridge to the side. And they will demolish and then move the new bridge over. So they say it's gonna take a 25-day exercise. The official routing, I mean, again, there's no perfect approach here, no perfect process, but they have this new state route going essentially down Forbes and Fifth, all right, through Oakland. Yeah, so it's gonna be an interesting journey in the middle of summer. They are just basically encouraging people that if you are on the far side and you need to go to the airport, go up and over, don't go through the city during that time. But again, they said they're communicating very actively, they're trying to get out to everybody, they're trying to make sure that everybody's communicating. Yeah, so that, I think, I wasn't aware that it was that big of a of a lift, but yeah, having lived through the Bay Areas,
Yeah.
constructions like that, yeah, it's a disaster. And then we had an update from the NFL draft folks talking about the activities that are occurring for the NFL draft and all the events that are being undertaken and the potential impacts, which I think is really interesting. Again, a lot of people are very excited. It's going to create a lot of buzz, mostly in the downtown, but obviously, where there's transit, like the T, they anticipate a lot of volume, a lot of activity, and there will definitely be impacts, but my understanding is that they're actively communicating with our public safety folks. And so we are well informed, but it is still definitely a
Big deal.
big deal, and it's evolving, so there's gonna be a lot of just process and management that is gonna be happening for the county and all the various public safety organizations. That's all I've got.
Schools? Anything down here?
I have not done anything with the schools as of lately, no. Yeah, so nothing there.
So there was a luncheon that took place at the high school, and so then, I attended sort of like on behalf of the representative to the partnership. So it was very interesting because there was a lot of discussion from the superintendent about tax liabilities. So it was, helpful to have a public, forum where that could be discussed, so.
That was the business,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
the roundtable, yeah.
Right, the roundtable.
Thank you for attending that. It was on my calendar, but I wasn't able to make it. Awesome. Well,
Yeah,
do
they
we
did
have-
a very thorough and detailed explanation. It was helpful, it was well done.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with the work that the district is doing. They seem like they're on a good path.
Yeah.
Obviously bumps to deal with, but
Well, assessments would be the big one, but
yeah.
that's really the issue.
Good. All right, well, I will give everybody back 5 minutes and we have a chance to breathe before commission begins.